Hello there. I'm a day late reviewing 1981's Looker. In the here and now of 2024, AI-produced content is popping up all over YouTube. One of my favorites is produced by the AI Guy, and it revolves around Joe Rogan as a dungeon master for our campaign with several celebrities including Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
They seem to be discussing something in hushed tones, and their eyes dart around the room, scanning for danger. One of them in particular keeps glancing at you, Tronald. What do you guys do?
Well, frankly, I don't see why he's staring at me. What's his problem anyway?
Rogan, Trump, and Musk, and the others have nothing whatsoever to do with this production. Their voices are all computer-generated. So what you say? People have been doing impersonations for years. Seeing is where it's at. Seeing is believing. Well, this isn't Mark Hamill. The body is a stunt double, and the face is computer-generated. Now, if you paid any attention to the writers and actors strike in Hollywood last year, you will know that there is concern regarding the use of AI and what that means for this industry. Hollywood has belatedly realized that they aren't as irreplaceable as they once thought. And all this was predicted 43 years ago by the author and director Michael Crichton. Meet Lisa Convey. She is a model for television commercials. She's a real looker. But to the casting directors, something is not quite right. Hollywood, home of the body positivity movement, everyone. So she meets with the best plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills and our eventual protagonist, Dr. Larry Roberts. He agrees to do her surgeries. Sometime later, once she is healed up from her surgeries, she is getting ready for a date when she loses time. Drugs? Aliens? What is it? That wasn't here earlier. What's going on? She then gets caught in her curtains and falls off her balcony. And now we get our reason our protagonist gets involved in the story. More on this later. Cut to Dr. Roberts' office. He has a busy day doing procedures and follow-up appointments when Lieutenant Masters from the LAPD shows up and has some questions for the good doctor. It seems that two of the women that he has done surgery on have turned up dead, and he asked Dr. Roberts if they were suicidal. Dr. Roberts says he doesn't believe so. As it turns out, the lieutenant doesn't think so either. He has his suspicions about Dr. Roberts. He doesn't tell the doctor, but the police found a pen and a cufflink at Ms. Convey's apartment. Dr. Roberts denies seeing Ms. Convey outside the office, and the lieutenant leaves, having confirmed some of his suspicions. Interestingly enough, another model, this one by the name of Tina, is here, and she wants Dr. Roberts to reverse the surgery he did for her. She says that she is too perfect and that they are killing all the girls that are perfect. Of course, all the girls is just two so far, and one died in a car accident. But we need to get this mystery started somehow. Dr. Roberts' intercom buzzes, and it says that Tina has a call. She freaks out, saying that no one knows that she is here, and then bolts out the door saying that she forgot her luggage at home. In a surprisingly smart move, Dr. Roberts has his secretary call the police to let them know that he is going over to Tina's apartment. Of course, it would probably be smarter to call the police, say that she seemed paranoid, and that you were worried for her safety, and would they do a wellness check. But you don't get to be the protagonist by sitting on your butt waiting around. Dr. Roberts gets there just in time to see Tina come over the side rail of her balcony. Props to the stunt woman. That looked like a very hard landing.
Oh, yeah.
Then he sees someone else peering over the balcony and he decides to check it out. He gets to the apartment but doesn't find anyone else. However, he does manage to look over the balcony edge in time to see the police arrive and see him staring down at them. The good doctor gives his story and the lieutenant is dubious. They then let him go, however, and he looks at the paper that he found in Tina's purse. It is a list of 4 girls that he has done cosmetic surgery on, and not only that, they have all done commercials for a company called Digital Matrix. And now 3 of the 4 are dead. Dr. Roberts then goes to a photo shoot to meet with the surviving model, Cindy. He asks her to go to a fundraiser dinner with the tech mogul Jonathan Reston. Cindy agrees, and they go to the party. Dr. Roberts hopes to get a donation from Reston for a burn unit facility that he hopes to build. Reston pledges just over half the money that Dr. Roberts needs, and then they sit down to dinner. While eating dinner and making chit-chat, Reston brings up the fact that he saw Dr. Roberts' name on the news about several models that had died after having plastic surgery. An odd thing to bring up after having pledged $4 million to the doctor's planned burn center. In fact, that might be the kind of thing to bring up before pledging money, but what do I know? The good doctor tries to poo-poo it, saying it was just a coincidence, that the girls were all linked to some company called Digital Matrix. As it turns out, sitting next to Reston is his right-hand woman, Jennifer Long, and she is the head of Digital Matrix. Digital Matrix is a company that does research for Reston Industries. Jennifer says that at one point that Digital Matrix was doing research into a new visual technology, but they stopped that research. She says that it must be some weird coincidence. Later, after the meal fundraiser is over, Dr. Roberts takes Cindy home so that he can keep an eye on her and make sure that she is safe.
But you have to admit, it is weird.
You finished with these eggs?
Why would you have me stay the night and not hit on me?
Did you get that, folks? She's weirded out by chivalrous behavior. Oh, Hollywood, never change. The next morning, Dr. Roberts takes Cindy to the beach, where she has a commercial to film. It is here that he learns about how tedious the work in Hollywood can be, as he watches her jump over and over again. There's a van from Digital Matrix there, and they are measuring her jump each time and trying to get her to do it perfectly. After many repeated attempts, Dr. Roberts overhears one of the techs saying that they're going to have to do it with the animation, that Cindy just can't quite match what they want her to do.
Missed it by that much.
Now, if you saw this in 1981, you probably had no idea what they were talking about. Here in 2024, I'm sure the average movie viewer is all too aware. The techs are talking about CGI, computer-generated imagery. The director then tells Cindy that it is a wrap for the day, but that Digital Matrix wants her to come in for some tests that they will pay her to do. She breaks the news to Dr. Roberts and he offers to take her there. Once he drops her off, Jennifer shows up and offers to take him on a tour of the facility. The first room they come to has multiple women watching commercials. They are all hooked up to visors that measure their eye movements to see what they are looking at in the commercials. Jennifer has Dr. Roberts try it out. He agrees and they play a commercial for him. Once done, they then examine what he was looking at. As it turns out, he was looking at a hot female model.
Excellent!
Jennifer explains that what they want him to look at is the product and that the computer will then tell them where to place the product to get the viewer to see it more often.
Bogus!
All the measurements are very precise. Dr. Robert then notes this is why he had the models wanting specific changes done. Jennifer agrees, saying that it turned out to be a failed experiment, however, as even though the models looked perfect, once they started to move, they were no longer perfect. The quicker among those watching may have an idea where this is all headed.
What is it they've sent us?
Hope.
We cut to Cindy, who is with the tech, heading into a scanning chamber. He has told her that she will be paid $200,000 a year for the use of her likeness. Cindy finds it all a bit much, but the tech explains that she is perfect in her category. He then leaves her to be scanned. Cindy thinks there is a catch, and it turns out that there is. She needs to completely disrobe in order to get a body scan. So if you ever wanted to see Lori Partridge topless, here's your chance. And I can hear most of you saying, "Who's Lori Partridge?" Back with Jennifer and Dr. Roberts. She takes them to their scanning room. It is here that their computers can make a computer duplicate of a person, and then dress it in whatever they want, and animate it to do whatever they want. No more fallible humans. And Crichton predicted this back in 1981. Later, Jennifer meets with Reston to tell him that a security badge has gone missing from Digital Matrix, and she wants to use the looker device to see if Dr. Roberts has it. Reston is wary, as he's having a very important corporate gala on Sunday, and he doesn't want any hiccups to disturb his plans. Back at Dr. Roberts' house, Cindy hears the news about the other models' deaths and isn't sure whether to trust Dr. Roberts or not. She decides to go visit her parents to think things through. Meanwhile, Dr. Roberts experiences some time loss. I would like to point out that if you're not wanting to alert your victim to any weirdness going on, you might want to say turn off the water tap or close the refrigerator so as not to make it too obvious that something weird is afoot. Cindy returns, and Dr. Roberts decides that they need to go back to Digital Matrix and have a look at the Looker Lab, the one area that Jennifer would not take him into during their tour. The card he stole lets them into the building, but it won't open the door to the Looker Lab. However, they discover a robot janitor and follow it into the lab. Even better, they find a manual that explains what Looker is.
Excellent!
It is a light pulse that stimulates the optic nerve and creates a suggestible, hypnotic state in the viewer. And to demonstrate this effect, Cindy has been watching the commercial on the monitors and begins to mutter the slogan of the product. Not only that, they've made a gun that will cause the viewer to go into a trance and lose time. Suddenly, Cindy screams, and Dr. Roberts turns to see what she sees, and it's a man standing there pointing the looker gun at them. Well, after getting his hat handed to him several times, Dr. Roberts eventually finds a pair of mirrored glasses, and the mustached man gets hit by the reflected light and freezes. And you know what time it is?
Game on! Game on!
After getting some of his own back, Dr. Roberts grabs Cindy and they hot-footed out of there. They end up at his office to let her rest, and hopefully it won't be as obvious as going back to his house. The bad guys show up, however, and this time they aren't worried about being subtle about it. He manages to cut the hand of one of the gunmen, causing them to grab Cindy and flee. Then we get an interesting scene, with the police at the doctor's office, and rather than saying, "Holy smokes, all these bullet holes shed some new light on the case," instead they say, "We almost have enough evidence to go after Reston. Hope the doc is all right." Now, the last time we heard from the good lieutenant, he was eyeing the missing button from Dr. Roberts' jacket and asking if he had ever been over to Lisa Convey's place. So now, we know Reston is up to something, even though our protagonist hasn't shared any of this information with the police.
What?
Then we hard cut to a car chase between the good doctor and the mustached man. Very awkward, as the bad guys took off to parts unknown when we last saw them. How did they find Roberts again? Then Roberts gets flashed again and crashes into a fountain. The cops show up and he manages to hide on the floorboard of the back seat of one of the police cars. Only it turns out to be a security car from Reston Industries, and they take him back to the Reston campus. Which brings up an interesting conundrum for the security officers. While they can detain a person, typically, if it is a legal matter, they hold you for the police. So why are they headed to Reston instead of the nearest police station? They aren't worried about possible kidnapping charges? This is all a little bit too mindless evil minions for me. Once they get there, Dr. Roberts flashes them and takes one of their uniforms. Hey, it's the night of the big gala event, so now it makes the decision to have brought him to Reston Industries all the more stupid. Say, we need to kill someone. Let's take him to the big party. As it turns out, this is Reston's big rollout of their new technology, computer-generated actors for commercials. The one very silly thing about this technology is that they used real sets for the commercials instead of virtual sets as well. As we have come to see, making real-looking sets and environments is much easier than making realistic-looking people. But I suspect this is so we can have our big finale. After Reston gives his big speech about the future of commercials, he joins the mustached man and they head upstairs after Dr. Roberts. Roberts, for his part, has made it up to the studio where the commercials are being filmed. And we have several sets with automatic cameras ready to go. Jennifer begins the mostly automatic process of running the commercials, and Dr. Roberts turns up on one of the sets.
With new formula blast. Instantaneously and odorlessly.
Before you know it, Reston shows up on one of the sets holding a gun as he hunts for Dr. Roberts. The audience is confused by this. What's going on? Lieutenant Masters is there to see this, and he heads up to the studio floor. As Reston is trying to kill Dr. Roberts on live TV, Lieutenant Masters shows up in time to put a bullet hole in him. Huzzah! The day is saved. Cindy turns up, and Dr. Roberts tells her that he wants to date her now. The end. And there you have it. Looker. A mediocre thriller that does have some interesting ideas driving it, but ultimately fails due to a lack of suspense. As soon as you meet Reston and Jennifer, you know they are the bad guys, and not particularly competent ones at that.
You told him everything,
I told him nothing.
but he does suspect.
Dr. Roberts has no idea what's going on, and he's not going to find out anything before Sunday, is he?
So once Reston unveils his new technology for commercials, murder's now going to be legal? Or perhaps he will be too powerful to touch. There's nothing about this technology that is going to make either of those things the case. And then there's trying to implicate Dr. Roberts in the death of the first model in the beginning of the film. Why do you want to draw attention to her death as anything other than an accident or a suicide? Hey, Lieutenant, we found this button and pin in her apartment, but we didn't find any fingerprints or DNA. And now that she's dead, she's in more commercials than Cal Worthington. Do you think there might be something more to her death than suicide? There doesn't seem to be any reason to try and frame Dr. Roberts either, as Reston isn't in direct competition with him, and in fact Reston was interested in forming a business relation by helping to finance Dr. Roberts' burn center. Now maybe if Reston was trying to buy into an existing burn center and Dr. Roberts didn't want to sell or give up control, then I could see it, but right now it's just because he was the only other person to have a common link with all the models besides Digital Matrix. And if Reston had waited and killed the girls over a greater period of time, instead of over a week or two, it might decrease the chance of the police thinking that their deaths were somehow related. Or instead of putting a jacket button and a pin, maybe you put some drug paraphernalia in the apartment and shoot her up with a massive dose of heroin or some such before pushing her off the balcony. The idea being that you don't want the police to think murder. Another silly thing is that these women need minor cosmetic surgery in the first place. If the idea is to scan their images and then make digital models that you can manipulate however you want, why not just scan the models as they are and then fix their imperfections in the digital model? We can put you into any costume we need. We have the model move, jump, bend, do whatever we need it to do. We just can't remove the mole or make your face more symmetrical. As it turns out, there's an interview with actor James Coburn for Psychotronic Video, and in it he laments that most of the stuff that he filmed ended up on the cutting room floor, and that there was more to the story than just a cheesy thriller. At one point, the story had a lot to say about people being addicted to television and the power of the medium. Now, some of that is still in the movie. Most of Reston's speech towards the end of the film talks about this, but is kind of lost in the background as your attention is on watching Dr. Roberts sneaking around the gala event. Still, mindlessly spending hours glued to a screen? Hard to believe anyone ever thought that might be a problem. So rather than being a commentary about the manipulation of media to sell the viewer something, we get a muddled mystery about Hollywood killing off actors so they don't have to pay royalties to use their likenesses. A decent enough premise, but as I have said, there are issues with the story that are hard to overlook. It was written and directed by Michael Crichton. He is best known for Westworld, Coma, The Great Train Robbery, and Jurassic Park. He does a serviceable job, but visually the film is fairly static. It stars Albert Finney, Susan Day, James Coburn, Lee Taylor-Young, and Dorian Harewood. All do a fine job, but their skills are not really taxed too hard by the material. It was rated PG. There is a bit of brief female nudity and some violence. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 33 minutes, so it's not too long. It had a budget of $8 million, and it made $3.2 million, so it lost money. IMDb has it at 6.1 out of 10, Metacritic has it at 20 out of 100, and Rotten Tomatoes has it at 32% per critics and 41% per audience. Those scores may be a bit harsh. I myself would give it about 5 out of 10. It has some interesting ideas, but is very flawed in execution. As usual, thanks for watching, and until next time.
It's one small step for man.
Now cut that!